The Denver City Council announced in a written letter this week that it will not pursue an independent investigation into sexual harassment claims against Mayor Michael Hancock. However, Councilmember Rafael Espinoza has called the mayor out on his actions and has asked a further analysis to take place. David, with the council coming out with this announcement, are we seeing at least the end of this particular news cycle if nothing else comes out?
Yes, I think we're at the end. It's not just the beginning of the end, it's the end of the end. The city council has the power to create an investigation. They chose not to. Speaking of people you agree with only one time out of 100, Kevin Flynn and I, the former Rocky Mountain News guy, panelist here, now Denver City Councilman, I don't agree with him on a lot of policy issues, but I have great respect for his, partly because of his journalistic experience, ability to get in, find out how things really work, and see that the system is operating properly. And Kevin Flynn, having seen things the public hasn't, confidential attorney-client investigations, things like that, he said there is no basis for going forward here. This is something that happened 6 years ago. It was improper. The mayor apologized. The sheriff's deputy got $75,000 settlement. She hasn't urged anything be reopened. We're now 6 years out, and I think time's up.
Eric, what do you think? As a political analyst, I've got to believe you've been asked a variety of times on issues like this, the lifespan. Is this coming to a close, or as long as there's nothing else that comes out? Is that the effect of the City Council's announcement this week?
You buried the lead in your question there, Dominic. As long as there's nothing else that comes out. It's been drip, drip, dripping here for several weeks or a month. I think the drips, as David pointed out, that faucet may turn off if there's nothing else that comes out. The history of these kinds of incidents around the country is usually these incidents don't stand alone, and that is got to be Hancock's big worry. This has been, to change metaphors from drip drip to fire, this has been a brush fire, and it's a brush fire that has damaged Michael Hancock, but that he can probably withstand. But one more spark, one more addition to this fire, and the brush fire turns into a firestorm. And that's what the question is whether there's anything else out there. Secondly, lastly, I do take some exception, and I know we're in a world that is governed by lawyers, and I'm sure City Council is operating with plenty of legal advice. But this notion of using past settlements that took place 6 years ago with Wayne McDonald or with this particular detective to preclude current transparency, I think sits wrong with a whole lot of people. And if there are people on City Council right now, as we know there are, who are looking to run for mayor, they have just handcuffed themselves with this issue.
Krista, what do you think? Is this over for the mayor? Again, as Eric put it, as long as there's no more drips, or I guess let's go with Eric's metaphor, any more fires?
No more fires, no more accusations. I think he weathers it, at least until the election. He runs for election. This issue's going to come up again. It goes to character. His opponents could certainly use it and should use it. But I do think it sets a new standard. I think we have a new era. The Me Too era says, hey, you can't do this. You cannot email these kinds or text these kinds of things to the people that you work with. This kind of behavior is off limits. Save it for the bar.
Patty, wrap it up for us. What do you think?
Oh, I think the drips are coming. It may not go into a flood or a firestorm. We can have all our natural disasters, but there are still some unanswered questions that I think people have the right to know, and if we don't find out soon, it will come up during the election. We have $275,000 at least that were made in settlements, one to a person who arguably should never have had the job, another one to a woman who did make complaints. There also are some gaps in timing. Wayne McDonald, who has been blamed in a lot of this, had left the security detail and moved to excise and licenses 2 months before the mayor says he heard about complaints. So the question is, why was he moved out of that security thing? I think that's what an investigation could tell us. It would tell us why he got paid $200,000 when he allegedly had sexually harassed someone and shouldn't have been on the job anyway. So there are some questions that will be answered, if not in the next month or two, in the year when he was running for re-election.